Everybody. Hey, and welcome again to the Worth It TV show. I'm your host, LaQuanda McCoullum, and we have another great show for y'all today. Coming back is Jonathan Suber, because we talked about grief, we talked about therapy, and we're going to talk about grief even more this time and how to grieve well. Okay, so we have a really great show for you. So we hope you're ready for it. And before we get into the show, we're going to start today's show like we do with every other show. And that is with our word of the week. And this week, the word is do it anyway. There's a lot of people out there doing a whole lot of things, and some of those things are the same thing. But guess what, y'all? I heard somebody say you can give two different chefs the same recipe, and guess what? The sauce will never taste the same. And you are the secret sauce to whatever ingredient, to whatever you're supposed to produce. So go ahead, do whatever you want to do, regardless of who doing it anyway, because your sauce is never the same. So I hope that encourage you today with today's word of the week. Girl, boy, man, woman, child, baby, go ahead and do it anyway. Okay, so now we're going to jump right into our next segment, and we want to hear the good news of the Lord and testify. Testify.
Hello, everybody. My name is Amanda Urquhart. I just want to give a brief testimony about being delivered from nicotine. One day I was bound by nicotine. I was bound from the age of 15 up to the age of 30. And the Lord, but I kept it in my heart, asking God to help me to stop smoking cigarettes. And I couldn't. And I tried every apparatus or whatever device they had to stop me from wanting or craving the nicotine, and nothing worked. So I began to pray and ask God, and I kept it in my heart. Even though I was still smoking, I kept my deliverance in my heart. And then one day, it was June the 27th, on my birthday, that the Lord has delivered me from smoking. He took the very desire for the nicotine, He took it away from me. I had no withdrawal. I didn't have to run from the cigarettes. I didn't have to be afraid of them anymore. I completely stopped once God had delivered me. So I just want to encourage you to trust in the Lord, and He will choose the day, the time, and the hour when He will deliver.
Ooh, hallelujah. I mean, did you hear what she just said? She was smoking from 15 to 30 some odd years, and she wanted to stop smoking and she couldn't. But please, first of all, don't tell me what God can do, because He can do it and He will do it. It may not always happen in the time frame that we think it's going to happen in, but He will do exactly what He said. Testify. Listen, if you want to share your testimony with us, email us at submit@worthitTV.com. We would love to hear what God is doing in your life. And guess what? Now we are right back in it with our special guest, Jonathan Suber. But right before he comes, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. And he'll be right up.
I used to think that doing the right thing meant following the law, falling in line. Turns out, laws only protect certain people, especially when Black women's lives are at stake. I was told to stand down in Kuwait, that it wasn't my country, but this country is mine. So I won't.
You run into some trouble? Turn that shit into a graveyard.
Okay, so welcome back. And now we're ready. We're ready for our guest. Come on, Jonathan Suber. Come on down.
Oh, yeah, welcome back.
Yes. I'm glad you came back again.
Yeah, I had to.
Right.
Oh,
So how you feeling today?
I'm feeling great.
Okay, oh, good. That's good to
It's
hear.
good to be back.
Right.
It's
Right,
been a
because we
minute.
want to back. Right, exactly. So our last show, it was such a heavy topic. Just talking about therapy. I know that the subject ideally was black men in therapy, but I said, hey, we want to talk about black people in therapy
Yes.
because in our culture, it's just like what was we're getting more open and aware about what therapy is now, but it's just like just negatively looked upon.
Yeah.
Okay. And so on this one of the things that drove me to therapy was grief.
Mm.
So on this show today, we're talking about grief, how we felt about it, and how to grieve well.
Mm.
Right. And so, like I told you, and then we'll get into to talk about your experiences with grief as well. But I'll lead us in with this. One of my therapy sessions, and I talked about it a little bit on the last show, was where my therapist uh, suggested that I read a book called Codependent No More, because when I was talking, she saw signs of codependency.
Mhm.
And, typically they say codependency generally occurs from somebody who was dealing with somebody who was an alcoholic, if you had a parent or things like that. But then they really identify in later years that codependency can relate to anybody in anything. Um, where any levels of abuse or anything like that existed for me, my codependency came because of
Mm.
loss. So in my life, I lost everybody that was close to me. I lost, my mom, my dad. When my mom died when I was 21, my grandmom was always like my mom and my mom's mom. So she took the place of my mom
Mhm.
already, as soon as she passed away. So losing her, my grandparents, not having siblings, losing relationships. I was married for 20 years, losing that relationship, losing houses, cars. When I say any and everything that I've ever had, I've lost. So that made me, when later when things began to come into my life, I wanted to hold on to them like for dear life because I was sick of a losing. So those kind of things kind of sent me, that grief sent me to therapy. Talk to me.
Mm.
What are some things that you mentioned your girlfriend you lost?
Yeah.
Um, what are some things that you've had to grieve as a man?
Um. Well, 2022,
Hmm.
last year was the worst. I think it was the worst year of my life because I went to 8 funerals in 1 year. I think it was eight,
Wow.
eight or nine in
Wow.
1 year. And one of the funerals was my dad.
Mm.
So I lost my superhero, man. And I mean I'm still grieving today.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
family sometimes family don't even allow you to grieve the way you want to grieve because
Yeah.
some of them act out in ways that they shouldn't. And my mom and dad was married 46 years.
Wow.
Yeah, they was married 46 years. So that was rough for her. So I wasn't even able to fully grieve because I got to make sure my mom is okay.
Yeah.
So I'm still in that selfish stage of grieving, whereas though people say, are they in a better place? And no, 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 no,
Hmm.
no. I don't feel like he's in a better place. I feel like a better place is here with his family. But I get it. That's just me being selfish and stuff like that. But um, it was rough because I did the same mechanism with my father that I did when my girlfriend passed away. But I think I did it more with my dad.
Mm.
I did it more with my dad. Like I literally was drinking every day. I bought a bottle every day from August 30th to January 1st. I think I bought a bottle if not every day, twice a week from
Wow.
August 30th to January 1st.
So that's your coping
That
mechanism.
was that was definitely my coping mechanism. That was
Mm.
cause I think I was just you really try to drink the pain away. You
Mm.
really try to, and then you get drunk and you're intoxicated, and once you're sober the next day, those same feelings come back.
They come
And
back.
so what you do, you try to drink some more, and it's just a temporary feeling.
Yeah.
You're trying to fulfill a temporary spot, and that's what I was doing.
Yeah, for me, I became so deathly afraid of death. It didn't make any sense.
Oh yes.
So part of it was crazy. When I was in college, I took a course called The Meaning of Death and Dying. In that class, I wrote a paper. We had to write a paper, and one of the things that I equated death with was a masked villain, and you never know
Hmm.
when it's going to come for you. And so my mom died when she was 39. When I turned 39, I thought death was going to come for me.
Got you.
So my grieving, I grieve my mom today. It's almost
Yeah,
like
yeah. I
over
mean,
20 something years. I
yeah.
grieve my mom
Ain't no
today.
time limit
I
on
grieve my
that.
dad today. And
Yeah.
I'll get it because the reason why I want to share these grieving experiences is because we as humanity, as people, sometimes we can feel like nobody else is experiencing the things that we've experienced. And sometimes we can place ourselves on these silos. And I've done that. My grandfather used to tell me all the time, LaQuanda, no man is an island. Because
Hmm.
even as a little girl, my mom always raised me to be self-sufficient, self-reliant, all those different kinds of things. So I always tried to manage everything, on my own. So this is why we're sharing these experiences. We don't want anybody to feel like they are the only ones out there who's ever had substantial loss. So we want to talk about the grieving process and from people who have grieved a ton
Hmm.
of things, 8 funerals in a year. I witnessed losing everybody. There was a time when my grandmother passed away that one of her sisters, which is my aunts, died 2 weeks in a row right after her. So four of them died within a 2 month period. They died 2 weeks after each other, and they just left. And so every 2 weeks, my family and I were preparing funerals. We're a really tight knit family. So
Hmm.
I was creating the videos and discussing how I was emceeing or participating in the program, and it was rough. It was rough because when you experience that kind of loss, for me, I can't speak for you, but for me, I felt like losing was the only thing that was guaranteed in life. And that was a feeling that after losing everything,
Yeah.
I've lost some of everything. I even, listen, I had it and I lost it all. So the only thing that I became comfortable with is losing. I know I'm going to lose this,
Right.
which further deepened my feelings of codependency. But anyway,
Hmm.
this is why we're sharing these experiences. And so I'll move on to how I felt when I lost my dad. Losing my dad was very interesting. And we'll talk about this, and you'll share about your experience grieving your dad. Losing my dad was very interesting because I grew up. My dad was in and out of my life. He was in and out of prison, all those different kinds of things. So in proximity, we weren't close, but from a love perspective and from a heart perspective,
Hmm.
we were very close.
Yeah.
I felt my dad, when he was going through something that was painful, even though he was in jail, and I had stopped speaking to him because I got sick of him being in jail. Okay, but I'm like, I ain't talking to him. But when he was like, he would be put in a hole for bad behavior or whatever. I could feel it. I
Hmm.
felt it. It was crazy. And I would just start crying my eyes out. And I was like, what is going on with my dad? So the connection, the love was always prevalent. So and when I lost him, and always my dad was always there if something happened to me. If something
Hmm.
happened to me,
Yeah.
he was always there. If somebody was going to bother me, I knew that I could reach out to my dad. He ain't gonna let nobody hurt me. So losing him after not having my mom and everybody like that, I'm like, who in the world is going to protect me from the world?
Yeah.
Even though I was like, you know, in my almost 40, I was 40 in my 40s, early 40s. It was like, all right, who's going to protect me? When my grandmom died, it was like, who's going to pray for me? You know what I mean? I'm like, I was already self-sufficient. Now I got to try to be sad and grieve them, but also fill in the missing pieces that they've been in my life. I became a vigilante. I protected my heart, my child, my everything, as if um, it was going to leave the next moment, which prolonged my grieving process.
Yeah.
And it still does. How did you feel about losing your dad? Just sharing that candid experience with somebody who is also combating grief, and then we'll talk to you about how we grieve through that process.
It was rough because I was with my dad the whole time, and my dad died on a Monday, if I'm not mistaken. I went to go see him that Saturday, and he had all kinds of problems going on. 99% blockage in his heart. He had a bowel obstruction, so he couldn't use the bathroom. So he was only feeding him through a tube. So that Saturday we saw him, and mind you, he was put in ICU twice. They had to put the breathing tube down him twice. Yeah, 2 times. So that Saturday he was moved from ICU to a regular room, and he was talking, and I felt good because I'm like, all right, he talking, he alert, he still couldn't eat though. They were supposed to do a test on him, put this dye down his throat. If it go down, I can't remember which one. They could tell if you're choking, if it's your esophagus or your trachea. I can't remember which one. They're gonna do a test on that Monday. I wanted to go see him. No, he's gonna do a test on that Monday. I wanted to go see him, and he knew that was gonna be his last day. I stayed with him for about 4 or 5 hours. And when I left, mind you, my dad was in the hospital for almost 30 days. Every time I would leave, I would say, all right, Dad, I'll see you later. And he said, I'll see you tomorrow. I love you. And I said, I love you too. On that day, I said, all right, Dad, I love you, man. I'll see you tomorrow. And he said, I love you. He said, I love you too. Don't you ever forget that. Well, he didn't say he was going to see me tomorrow. He died 11:59 that night.
You know, it's funny. My mom, when my mom, she passed away, she was sick. She had cancer. So I watched my mom. I was grieving my mom as well while she was here. She lost her ability to walk. She went from this vibrant human being. You know, she always had her hair done. She was a woman, okay, for a better woman than I'll ever be. But she was so graceful, and she went from that to not being able to walk, not being able to wash up on her own, going to in a wheelchair, gaining a ton of weight, and all that, and literally losing like her mental capacity. She was in and out of her mind. But she knew when she was leaving.
They all do.
They do.
They all
so
do.
what happened was we went to church, and she said, y'all got to be back here by 6, because if you ain't here by, I got to catch this train. And even still that, even still knowing that she knew, still didn't prepare me for her catching the train, even though she knew it.
I knew it because when I went home, my mom said, "Why you look like that?" And I said, "Daddy said, I love you, and don't you ever forget it." I was like, my dad never had to tell me, "Don't ever forget." He never in his life he had to say that to me. You know, when somebody show you love, they don't gotta say, "Don't you ever forget it." And I felt it. I knew it. I knew it in my heart. And my mom is so strong-minded. She was like, "Oh, your dad just letting you know he love you. That's all." And
she was in denial. That's a part. That's one of the big things.
Yeah, she was in
denial.
Of course.
Is one of them.
And she just was trying to uplift my spirits.
Yeah.
But I just felt it. It didn't seem right. And I'm just so glad that I stayed with him as long as I did. You know what I mean? I was the last person to actually see him alive and stuff like that. I was the person that got the phone call. They called my mom at 2 a.m. But my mom didn't answer the phone because Temple called from a different number. She had all their numbers saved, but that one. He
Mm.
died at 11:59. They called me at 8:47.
Mm.
So he been gone, but it wasn't meant for my mom to get the call. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't meant for my oldest brother to get the call. It was they called me. And
Mm.
I'm thinking they calling me to tell me about the procedure. So I'm answering the phone. Yeah, hello?
Yeah.
Y'all ready?
You were.
And she was like, did they tell you about your dad? No. Y'all taking him down to do the procedure? She said, he didn't make it. And I was like, and it was
Oh my
yeah, it
gosh.
was it was it was rough for me.
And you know what? We're going to come right back to talk more
Mhm.
about that right after this commercial break.
So, what is the one thing that if you didn't have it, you could potentially lose every asset you ever had or not pursue everything you felt you deserved? Your worth and value. Hi, I'm LaQuanda McCoullum, worth advocate, author, and host of the Worth It TV Empowerment Series. And guess what? I am so grateful to introduce you to the Worth It Academy. Part of my life purpose is to speak to people in a worthless space and to inspire and empower them to live like they are worth it. Why? Because I know firsthand what it feels like to lose absolutely everything because I didn't understand the investment God made when He made me. And I also know what it feels like to not pursue things because I didn't feel I deserved it. But I also know what it feels like to reclaim my worth and to get up and go get everything that God said was mine. And I want to share those tools with you inside of the Worth It Academy because your dreams are worth it. And I know that once you rediscover your worth, you will be positioned to get up and go get everything that belongs to you. Join us today inside of the Worth It Academy.
So let me ask you a question. What now? I want to move into grieving well. Okay. Now I know that you use alcohol because
Mhm.
that was what you decided to use. That was the way you coped. That's a coping mechanism for you. Okay. May not be the best if you're
Tequila
using
is
it.
good though.
What?
Tequila is good. Yeah. Sorry, y'all that know. Yeah, but
What else did you use to help you
um, um,
get through the emotion? Because my thing is, we have to reach a place where we don't cope, but we heal.
yeah, yeah.
So, how do you heal? How did
Mm.
you heal as opposed to just coping?
Um, music was number one.
Music, that's good.
Music was number one, and we listen to old school gospel. We
Yes.
into that. We into old school. I don't, you know what I'm saying. I don't got nothing against the new stuff. So I just listen to music a lot, and then I started a journal.
Mm.
Yeah. So
So
I
journaling,
oh yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
great. That is
yeah. I started a
big.
journal. Yeah,
So what kind of
yeah,
things do
yeah,
you
yeah.
put in your journal?
So
Tell somebody out there who's grieving how has journaling and those things helped you.
so journal has helped me because instead of me um
Hmm.
going to instead of me going to like the wine and spirits to get something to drink, I would write down my thoughts. I would write down what some of the memories me and my dad had, and then on my bad days, I would go back and read the journal and like, oh, you know what? Oh, I missed this. So it's like a continuous story. I went back from when I remember my first birthday. Well, not my first birthday, but I remember my
I was about to
when
say, wow,
I don't remember my
you
first
got a
birthday.
memory like
I,
an elephant.
but I do remember my third birthday. My third birthday I had a He-Man cake and everything. And I remember my dad just being, my mom was there too, but I remember my dad just making sure the cake and everything was good. So journaling helps me because as an actor and a writer, I feel like I put my words together better on paper than I do actually talking to somebody
Hmm.
sometimes. So I felt like I was my own therapist at one point in time. So, but I've been journaling since my dad passed
Process.
away.
So, one of the big components and takeaways that I'll use is when I allow myself to grieve. I do not allow anybody to put a timetable on my grief and how I grieve. If I feel like crying, I cry. I just give myself a moment to step away, and then I go back to life because
Yeah,
life is a bunch of different things. So sometimes it's sadness, sometimes it's happy.
yeah,
It's multidimensional. So I step into a place. Generally I'm a happy person, but if I feel moments where I feel them tugging, I feel the sadness, I go in and I have it. Then I have art. Then I have this show.
yeah,
Then I have,
yeah.
work. I have a daughter. I have family. I have so many things. I find joy. Um, um, so thank you, John. Any last words you want to share with somebody about grieving?
No, I just want to piggyback off what you said. Yeah, don't let nobody put a timetable on your grief because there's no timetable on it. Like you said, your mom has been gone for what? How many years?
Over 20,
Yeah,
23, 24
if
years.
if you love somebody unconditionally, there's no timetable on it. Don't tell me how long or I should be over it because you never get over losing your superhero. You never do it. So
You
um
never do.
no.
One of the things I equate it with, it's like if you had an arm and you lost it. Yes, you learn how to live without your arm and you can function without it, but you always remember that the arm was there. It's a part that you just can't get over.
I'm gonna miss my arm though,
Right, you gonna miss your arm.
especially with my right arm.
Yeah.
I'm gonna miss my arm.
You gonna miss it.
Miss that
You gonna
joint.
miss it. You learn how to live without it.
Oof,
But you
that was
never ever forget
that was a good
that
one.
you had one there.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
That was good.
So I just want to let us know how you're dealing with grief out there. You can do that by following us on our social media at worthit.tv on Instagram. Let us know how you're handling your grief, how you deal with it, how you cope with it, if you're coping well, and also share your experiences as well. I would love to hear from you. And join us next week, okay? Oh, excuse me, before you join us next week, but we want to get into, is it worth it?
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, the grieving that got me grieving. Okay,
We grieving up here.
We grieving.
We
Okay.
grieving up here. All
Now,
right,
one
here
of the
we go.
ways that I grieve is with comedy because, baby, I love it.
There we go.
Okay, so now we're going to jump into this segment. Is it worth it? Is it worth it?
You want to find out?
Grab your sign.
All
Grab
right.
your sign. Grab your sign. Grab your sign. Okay, again, if it's your first time tuning in, if it's worth it, we're going to hold up the sign that it's worth it. If it's not worth it, we're going to say, it ain't worth it. Okay? It ain't
Last time I was here, you ain't put up no worth of sign.
Well, hopefully it's one, is one today. All right, so producer, go ahead and let put up the first scenario for us, please. Leaving the person you're with, who is genuinely a good person, for the one you want. Ow! Is it worth it? Is it worth it?
Leaving the person you with.
Leaving the person you with for the person you want. He said it's worth it. And you know what, John? I'm going to say it's worth it.
Finally.
Why?
Finally.
I'm going to say it's worth it because I feel like this. If you want to leave them, you don't really want to be there
You don't
anyway.
want them.
You don't want them.
You
don't want, and it ain't right. Don't string them along. Now, on the flip side of it, you may be leaving the very best thing that has ever happened to you.
I mean, that's life. You got to take
That's
chances.
life.
Yeah, that's life.
But you know what they say, the grass ain't always greener on the other
Well,
side.
I ain't going to have grass because I'm allergic, so my stuff will be cemented. It's going to be cemented down there. Oh,
Tune into Worth It with host LaQuanda McCoullum on the Daily Gospel Network, the TV show designed to entertain, inspire, and empower women to live in their worth. Ladies, this is your opportunity to tap into your full potential and conquer the world. Join us each week as we explore ways to live your best life. Catch Worth It every week on the Daily Gospel Network with host LaQuanda McCoullum.
Attention ministry leaders. Have you ever considered growing your ministry with television? Well, the Daily Gospel Network could be what you've been looking for. As one of the nation's largest Christian broadcasting companies, the Daily Gospel Network broadcasts all over the world on popular streaming platforms